A wealthy CEO, Logan Pierce, took his twin daughters on a blind date, masquerading as a man of simple means. His world shifted entirely the moment she offered to cover the check. "You've brought your children on a date?" the hostess murmured, an eyebrow arched in disapproval as Logan adjusted the squirming toddlers in his arms. "Yes," he answered with a calm he didn't feel, a diaper bag slung over his shoulder. "Well, it's not exactly a date." The woman's skeptical look lingered, but she guided them toward a table near the window. "You're fortunate. There's only one other reservation with children this evening. Table 5-inch. Logan gave a slight nod, his heart racing more intensely than it ever had during a high-stakes corporate negotiation. Dressed in worn jeans and a simple t-shirt, he was unrecognizable as the billionaire who often appeared on business magazine covers. His bespoke suits and chauffeured car had been swapped for a borrowed sedan and two colorful, mismatched hair ties, keeping Zara and Zuri's curls in check. He settled the girls into their booster seats. Zuri instantly reached for the salt shaker, while Zara hugged her plush pink bunny and surveyed her new surroundings. Logan let out a slow breath, his eyes fixed on the entrance. He was already certain that the woman he'd matched with online was a no-show. Her final message had been terse. "Sorry. I can't be with a broke father of two. Best of luck, *." He was on the verge of gathering his daughters to leave when the door swung open. A woman with a large tote bag and a novel in her hand entered, scanning the room before her eyes fell upon their table. She approached with a hesitant smile. "Hi, I'm Naomi Bennett," she said, tucking a strand of dark, coily hair behind her ear. "My apologies for being late. The bus was running behind schedule." Logan was momentarily speechless. "I know. Not the most impressive arrival," she continued, settling into the chair across from him, barely glancing at her phone. "But you mentioned a window table with kids, so I assumed this had to be the place." He opened his mouth to explain the mix-up, but then he truly looked at her. He saw a quiet earnestness in her eyes and an endearing awkwardness in her smile. Beneath it all, he recognized a familiar exhaustion. "No worries at all," he murmured. "We just got here ourselves." Naomi's gaze softened as she looked at the two girls, who were staring back with wide, curious eyes. "I wasn't aware I'd be dining with such distinguished guests," she remarked warmly. Zuri squinted at her. "Do you like cats?" Naomi's laugh was genuine. "More than I like most people." Zara pushed a purple crayon toward her. "Draw one." Just like that, Naomi picked up a napkin and began sketching. In moments, the girls were giggling at her charmingly lopsided drawing of a kitten, utterly captivated. Logan watched, amazed. The typical discomfort of introducing his daughters to someone new had vanished. This felt natural, effortless. Their dinner arrived amidst a cheerful flurry of chaos. Spaghetti sauce landed on the table, a glass of juice was knocked over, and a mountain of napkins was used. Naomi didn't bat an eye. She helped Zuri wipe her face and told a story about once slipping and falling into a cake at the library where she worked, which sent the girls into peals of laughter. Logan felt a warmth spread through his chest, a feeling that had been absent for years. Nothing had felt this easy for so long. Naomi never inquired about his profession. She didn't bring up money, status, or any of the topics tied to his public identity. She asked Zara about her favorite animal and listened intently to Zuri's tale about a magical rock she discovered. When she met Logan's gaze, she offered a smile that was not flirtatious or calculated, but simply real. A server placed the bill on the table. "Take your time," he said. Logan stared at the leather folder, his hand instinctively going to his back pocket before he froze. These weren't his jeans. This wasn't his wallet. Panic flickered within him. Naomi noticed his hesitation. Without a word, she opened her well-loved wallet, pulled out a credit card, and gave it to the server. "It's on me," she said softly, her expression kind. "I've had far worse dates." Logan was stunned. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," she replied gently. "But I wanted to. You look like you could use a little kindness tonight." He was silent. The restaurant's clamor faded into the background. It wasn't about the money. He could have bought the entire city block. It was about the way she saw him. Not as Logan Pierce of headlines and boardrooms, but as a man struggling with booster seats and juice boxes. A father who was trying. He studied her face, noticing the faint lines of fatigue around her eyes, likely from late nights with books rather than parties. Her blouse was simple, her nails unpolished. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just present, human, and kind. As the restaurant emptied, their table remained a warm bubble of laughter and crayon art. Naomi broke a breadstick, offering half to Zara as she recounted a story from her childhood. I grew up in a house where we didn't have much money, she shared, her eyes distant with memory. But we had books in every corner. My mother would read to me by candlelight when the power was out. It's why I became a librarian. Books made me feel wealthy when I had nothing else. Logan listened, deeply moved. There was no trace of bitterness in her voice, only a quiet appreciation for what she'd been given. Most women he dated were interested in his mansion in Lakewood Hills, his wine cellar, or his collection of luxury cars. Naomi hadn't asked a single question about his career. She seemed to care about who he was, not what he did. For the first time in a very long time, Logan felt truly seen. "You must love your job," he said. Naomi nodded. "Edo. Seeing the children light up when I remember their names or save a special book for them. It's a small thing, but I think it matters." Zara rested her head against Naomi's arm, and Naomi gently brushed a crumb from the girl's cheek. "These two," she whispered, "are something special." Logan swallowed past a lump in his throat. "They're my entire world." When a meal was over, Logan offered to walk Naomi to the bus stop or give her a ride home. "It's not a fancy car," he said with a wry smile, "but it works." Naomi hesitated. "That's okay," she said softly. "I enjoy the walk. It helps me think." He couldn't hide his disappointment. Of course, she gave a little wave to the girls, then bent down to kiss Zara's forehead. "Thank you for the cat drawing. Come draw with us again," Zuri called out. Naomi's smile lingered. "Maybe." Then she turned and disappeared into the night. Logan drove home in silence, the twins dozing in the back. The napkin drawing, a cat with too many whiskers, and the words Naomi plus Zara in shaky letters, was on the dashboard. He parked in his garage and stared at it, his heart aching. His mind drifted to a night long ago when his late wife, Caroline, had sat on the floor with the girls, drawing animals on newspaper. That memory had always been a painful reminder of his loss, making every new connection feel like a betrayal. But tonight, watching Naomi with his daughters, he'd felt a sense of peace. It wasn't guilt or fear, but a quiet understanding that healing wasn't a betrayal. It was permission to start anew. He carefully folded the drawing and placed it in the glove compartment, a fragile hope blossoming in his chest. He didn't know if he would see Naomi Bennett again, but she had already left an indelible mark. 4 days had passed since their dinner. For days since Naomi had accidentally walked into the wrong date and completely charmed him with nothing more than her sincerity. Logan couldn't get her out of his mind. He replayed the way she had laughed with his daughters and paid the bill without a second thought. His only clue was a comment she had made about her job. "I work at the Maplewood Public Library, the one with the red doors." On Saturday, Logan packed the girls into the car. He told himself it was just a trip to the library, with no expectations, just a spark of curiosity. The red doors were unmistakable. Inside, the comforting scent of old paper filled the air. In a corner, a group of children sat captivated as a woman read from a picture book. And then the bear said, "Who has my hat?" Naomi's voice was animated, drawing giggles from her audience. "That's her," Zara whispered excitedly. Zuri clapped her hands. "She's here." Before Logan could react, the twins darted forward, finding a spot among the other children near Naomi. She paused, surprised, and her eyes met Logan's as he stood near the entrance. "Hi," he said quietly. She closed the book. "Everyone, let's take a 5-minute break." The children groaned but dispersed. Naomi stood up. "You found me." Logan nodded. "I remembered what you said about the red doors." An uncertain silence stretched between them. Zara held out a folded piece of paper. "We made you another drawing." Naomi accepted it with a soft smile. "Thank you, sweetie." Her gaze returned to Logan. "You weren't the man I was supposed to meet that night." "No," he confessed. "You were meeting someone else." Naomi crossed her arms. Then why did you let me stay? Logan took a slow breath. Because I couldn't leave. Not after someone finally saw me. Not the CEO, not the guy with the huge net worth. Just me. The dad trying his best. The man who misses his wife and needed one night that didn't feel like a business deal. Naomi's expression was unreadable. I didn't lie, he added quickly. I just didn't correct you because, for once, someone wasn't looking at me through the filter of money. You sat down and you sketched with my daughters. You paid the bill. You laughed when things got messy. Her eyes softened. He took a step closer. My name is Logan Pierce. I run a company that has probably funded your library's donation drives. I own too many suits and live in a house that's far too big, and most days I can't stand it. But that night, none of it mattered because of you. Naomi swallowed, glancing at the twins. So, she said, her voice low, what now? I don't know, he answered honestly. I just knew I had to tell you the truth. Not because I expected to change anything, but because you deserve it. She looked down at the new drawing in her hand. What I saw that night, she murmured, the way you looked at your girls, that was real. It wasn't fake. It wasn't, he confirmed. She met his gaze again. But I need some time to figure out what is real when everything else feels so complicated. He nodded. Take all the time you need. A long pause lingered, but it wasn't a goodbye. And for now, that felt like enough. In the following days, their interactions were small and quiet. Logan began bringing the twins to the library more frequently, and Naomi would greet them with a warm, knowing smile. They met at the park, the girls running through the grass, as Naomi read from a novel and Logan watched from a bench, realizing how her presence could make an ordinary afternoon feel profound. One Friday, a note appeared in Naomi's mailbox. In a child's scrawl, it read, Dear Miss Naomi, please come have dinner with us. We made drawings and cookies. Love, Zara and Zuri and Daddy. 2 asterisks, she smiled, already knowing her answer. That Sunday, Logan drove them to a small cottage on the outskirts of town. This was my mother's house, he explained. I keep it just as she left it. It's where I come when I need to escape being Mr. Pierce. The cottage was modest and welcoming. Inside, the living room had been transformed into an art gallery of Zara and Zuri's crayon masterpieces. You weren't joking about the drawings, Naomi laughed. Dinner was simple spaghetti again. Logan wore an apron and pretended not to be mortified when sauce splattered on his shirt. The girls chattered endlessly, and Naomi listened, asked questions, and never once glanced at her phone. After dinner, as Naomi helped clean up, she leaned down to tie Zara's shoelace. The little girl tilted her head back, her curls bouncing. Your hair's in your face, Naomi said gently, reaching out to brush Zara's bangs aside and secure them with a tiny hair clip. Zara beamed. Logan stood in the doorway, his heart still. In that single, quiet action, something shifted. The look of pure trust on Zara's face took his breath away. I've never seen anyone earn their trust so quickly, he said, his voice low. After Caroline passed, they became so perceptive. You walked into our lives, and it was as if they had been waiting for you. Naomi's eyes glistened. I don't know what I'm doing most of the time. I just care. That's exactly what they need, he replied. The evening light streamed through the curtains. The chaotic world outside felt a million miles away. Naomi turned to him. You're different here. I'm myself here, he said. She stepped closer. You don't have to prove anything. Not to them, and not to me. He smiled, a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. That's what terrifies me the most. That this is real. Naomi's voice was a whisper. Then don't run from it. He looked at her, truly looked, with a gaze filled with gratitude and awe. Somehow, without even trying, she had become an essential part of their small world. And for the first time in years, that world didn't feel broken. The photograph surfaced on a Tuesday morning. A grainy shot of Naomi holding hands with Zara and Zuri outside the Maplewood Public Library. Within hours, her name was everywhere. Paparazzi swarmed her apartment building, their lenses peering through her windows. The headlines were relentless, speculating about marriage, scandals, and secret affairs. Logan watched the storm erupt, horrified that someone he cared for was being dragged into his tumultuous world. He tried calling, but she didn't pick up. At the library, the director regretfully informed her that a major donor was threatening to pull funding over the media frenzy. "I know you did nothing wrong," he said quietly, "but they only care about appearances." Naomi walked out with a box of her belongings, the whispers of her colleagues trailing behind her. That night, her phone buzzed incessantly with messages from reporters and strangers. Only one message mattered. Asterisk Naomi, please talk to me. I never wanted this to happen. Logan asterisk, she couldn't bring herself to reply. The next morning, the chaos arrived at her doorstep. As reporters shouted questions, a car door slammed. A hush fell over the crowd. Logan Pierce stood at the bottom of her steps, his coat unbuttoned, looking directly at her door. The cameras flashed wildly, but he ignored them. From her window, Naomi watched, her hands trembling. He raised his voice just enough to be heard. "I can't change the world, Naomi, but I can stand between you and it. I can take the cameras, the noise. Just say the word." His voice cracked slightly. "Let me stand with you." She stood frozen, tears welling in her eyes. Her fingers hovered over the lock, but she didn't turn it. Instead, her voice emerged, small but clear, through the door. "You have to protect your daughters. Don't let them get caught in this." "They're already in it," he replied, his voice raw. "Because they ask about you every night. Because they miss you. And so do I." She swallowed a sob. "I didn't ask for any of this." "I know," he said. "But somehow, this became the most real thing I've had in years." A long silence hung between them. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "but I need you to go." He stood there a moment longer, then nodded slowly and walked back through the crowd. Naomi slid to the floor, her back against the door, and wished the world would just stop spinning. A handmade drawing remained taped to Naomi's door, wobbly lines, uneven hearts, and the words, "We miss you, Miss Naomi," written in crayon. For 3 days, she paused each time she left her apartment, her fingers brushing against the paper before she walked away, her heart aching. The media had mostly moved on, but the damage was done. She told herself that silence and distance were for the best, but every night she dreamt of small hands in hers and giggles over picture books. At Logan's home, a hollow quiet had descended. The girls didn't understand public scrutiny. They only knew that Naomi was gone. One evening, Zuri climbed into his lap. "Is Miss Naomi gone forever?" she asked, her eyes full of confusion. Logan's chest tightened. "No, sweetheart. She just needs some time. Did we do something wrong?" Zuri's voice wavered. He had no answer for her pain. The next morning, he found the girls at the kitchen table, quietly focused on a new drawing. It showed 3 stick figures with hearts floating around them, and above it, the words, "We bring our hearts." Logan stood up. "We're going to see her," he declared. He took the side streets, parking blocks away to avoid any lingering press. When they reached her apartment, the old drawing was still there. He knocked, but there was no response. He knocked again. Still nothing. He looked at his daughters. "Are you ready?" Zara nodded and reached up, taping their new drawing to the door. Then, the 2 girls stood side by side, their arms stretched out, ready for a hug they weren't sure would come. Inside, Naomi heard the soft knock, then the rustle of paper and the unmistakable sound of hope waiting on her doorstep. She opened the door slowly. There they were, Zara and Zuri, arms wide, eyes bright. "Hi," Zara whispered. Naomi fell to her knees, her own arms flying open as tears streamed down her face. The girls ran into her embrace. "I missed you," Naomi choked out, so much. Logan stood back, waiting until she looked up. "I didn't come with headlines or promises," he said. "I just came with my heart and theirs." She stood, still holding the girls. "Why did you really come?" He exhaled. "Because I can live without the fame and the money, but I can't live without this. Without you." The girls squeezed her tighter. "I thought I had to protect you from it all," she murmured. "You were trying to protect us by leaving," he said gently. "But that wasn't protection. That was just pain." She opened the door wider. "Then come in." The moment was quiet, just 4 hearts in a doorway. "I don't need anything else," he whispered. She nodded, her voice breaking. "Me neither." And this time, no one let go. Life after that day became something different, quieter, and more honest. They started over, not with fanfare, but with a gentle determination to build something real. There were walks in the park, story times in the living room, and grocery trips where Zara insisted on pushing the cart. Naomi moved cautiously, and Logan respected her pace, never pushing. "If you could do anything," he asked her one day, "what would it be?" She smiled. "Start a reading program for kids who don't have books at home." So they built it. They called it Story Nest, a mobile library that traveled to shelters and community centers. Naomi led the project, and Logan funded it quietly. The headlines slowly shifted from gossip to praise for the program. At home, Naomi became a constant, loving presence. She read bedtime stories, her voice bringing characters to life as the girls clung to her. One evening, after a story about a lost bear finding a new family, Zuri blinked sleepily. "Miss Naomi." "Yes, sweetheart. Can I call you Mama Naomi?" The room went still. Logan froze. Naomi's eyes filled with tears as she knelt by the bed. "If that's what you want," she whispered, "then yes, of course you can." Zara reached for her too. Logan sat on the edge of the bed and took Naomi's hand. He didn't need to speak. Later, they sat on the porch swing. "I never wanted to replace anyone," Naomi said softly. "You didn't," he replied. "You became something entirely your own. You gave them a safe place. You gave me a reason to believe again." "I guess this just happened," she smiled through her tears. "No," Logan said, his voice thick with emotion. "We chose this. Every quiet choice, every small moment. We made this," she nodded, her heart full. A family was no longer forming. It was already whole. 1 year later, everything remained beautifully simple. Naomi still lived in her apartment, but she spent most of her time at the cottage, a place of warmth and wind chimes. On a soft spring afternoon, they had a picnic in the backyard. Logan had rebuilt the very table from their first disastrous, perfect date. "You brought back the wrong table," Naomi teased. "Some mistakes," he said, grinning, "are worth keeping." After dessert, the girls brought out a tiny box wrapped in napkins. Inside was a ring made of soft rope and colorful beads. "We made it," Zara announced. "It's your special ring." Logan knelt beside Naomi, his voice trembling. "I used to think I'd only be loved for what I have. But then came a wrong table, 2 little girls, and a woman who saw past all of it." He took her hand. "I'm not asking for a headline. Just this. Be you with us. Sadie Quinn, will you marry me?" Naomi laughed through her tears, slipping the homemade ring onto her finger. "We've been a family for a while now. You're just catching up." The girls squealed with delight, circling them in a hug. As the sky turned to gold, Logan and Naomi sat on the porch swing. "You were never the wrong woman," he whispered. "Just the right one at a table no one expected." Naomi smiled. "And you were never the billionaire. You were the dad with kind eyes and spaghetti on his shirt." Sometimes love doesn't arrive with perfect timing. It comes softly, sits at the wrong table, and turns your whole world right. Logan had tried to hide his heart behind his fortune, and Naomi feared her small life couldn't hold such a big love. But in the end, it wasn't the mansion or the money that mattered. It was bedtime stories, crayon hearts, and a woman who chose to see the man, not the name.